What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of BTB RV Rants. Let's dive straight into the questions. So I have a viewer who is asking me between an F350 and a Ram 3500, which one would I lean towards? Now, for 2019, I would honestly say that if you were comparing the Ram 3500 to an F350, and in his case, he's looking at either a Laramie Longhorn or a limited edition of the Ram, I would have to say I would pick a Ram. Mainly because it is going to have a slightly improved turning radius over the F350, nowhere near as tight as an F450, but it is definitely going to be a little better than the F350. Also, you really can't beat the interior of the Ram. The Ram has a phenomenal interior. The only thing you might want to consider, of course, with Ram is that the crew cab version of it is going to be significantly smaller in terms of backseat legroom versus the Ford, whereas the mega cab version of it is going to have roughly the same amount of legroom, but you'll have additional space behind the seat that you can recline the seat or use for storage. So those are definitely things to consider. Now, in terms of power plants, both trucks have very reliable, very strong power plants. In terms of capability, however, Ram has definitely upped the ante for 2019, and you are going to have higher numbers in terms of payload, towing capacity, as well as conventional towing capacity with the Ram trucks. That being said, it is a difficult decision. Both are great trucks, but I think Ram edges out Ford in terms of the interior, the exterior, as well as capabilities for 2019. Now, the next viewer asks a question related to things you should check out on your truck before you go on a long towing trip. So if you plan on traveling several hundred, if not thousands of miles, and you're going to be towing an RV, what are things you should look out for? So first of all, you need to make sure that all your preventative maintenance has been done. Make sure your oil is fresh, make sure you have a new air filter in, check your windshield wiper blades, check your tires and your brakes. Basically all the components that you're going to need to ensure that you get from point A to point B to point C safely and without any major issues. After that, it's always good to carry tools with you that allow you to do basic maintenance on the road, such as if you have a puncture in your tire, you should have a very nice tire repair kit, just so you can fix that on the side of the road as opposed to waiting potentially hours in a potentially dangerous situation on the side of an interstate for AAA or some other roadside assistance to come. You should also make sure that your insurance covers your truck as well as your trailer, and you have enough insurance to cover both in the event of some type of a catastrophe, whether it's a storm-related incident or whether it's a traffic-related incident. But more importantly than ever, make sure you pack what you need to keep you out of a dangerous situation in the event that you do break down, or in the event that you're stranded in an area that, really isn't the best area to be stranded in. Carry a poncho with you, carry umbrellas with you. Have a headlight or a flashlight with you with fresh batteries in it. Have a flare kit. Basically things that you might need if you are in an unfortunate position. And always remember to carry a fire extinguisher with you, and maybe some grease or some oil, and of course some duct tape. So the next question is from a subscriber who wants to know why the tongue weight on a travel trailer is different than the pin weight on a fifth wheel, why those percentages are so different. So on a travel trailer, you're generally going to see about 10% of the total weight transferred to the back of the truck. On a fifth wheel, you're going to see more like 18 to 25%, depending on the floor plan and how it was designed. So the answer to that is kind of a simple answer and kind of a complex answer. Travel trailers position most of the RV's weight above the axles because most pickup trucks don't have the capability of supporting an excessive amount of tongue weight. Basically, when the weight is positioned behind the rear axles of the truck, it really throws off the balance of the truck itself, and you end up pulling weight off the front axle of the pickup truck. So they stay within a margin that is safe to prevent that from happening too much. On a fifth wheel, however, when you position the weight directly over the rear axle of the truck, you generally have more room to support cargo capacity. So a dually truck or a 3/4 ton truck that is capable of towing a fifth wheel or a gooseneck will generally have a payload capacity of anywhere between about 2,100 all the way up to 4,500 pounds, depending on the type of truck. Whereas from a receiver hitch or a conventional hitch perspective, most trucks are going to have a capacity anywhere between about 400 pounds all the way up to 2,000 pounds, depending on if it's a half-ton truck or if it is a 1-ton dually or an F450 truck. The next question is from somebody asking me if I've ever become stuck while towing and if I've had to use my rear locker. Well, first of all, the F450 does not have a rear locker. That is something that you're going to need to get on a single rear wheel truck. And even if I did have it, I don't know if I would have necessarily needed it for the one time that I almost got stuck. I was in a situation essentially where we pulled onto some soft grass and it was wet and it was a little bit difficult to get out of the position I was in, but I had thought of that before getting myself in that position, and I had switched the truck to 4 high, and it was a relatively easy task of getting myself out. I don't think I would have ever needed a rear locking differential in that specific case. If you plan on going out to the beach with your RV, if you plan on going to areas where there's soft sand or mud, then having a rear locking differential on your truck could definitely come in handy. But in my case, I try to avoid areas where I'm going to get my rig stuck, and I simply don't think I would need a locking differential in my specific case. And the last question is from a viewer who is asking, is there any way to make a truck ride smoother? Basically, understanding a truck's never going to be as smooth as a Rolls-Royce, even though I would argue that some of these new half-ton trucks are getting to be pretty dang smooth. But he wanted to know what could be done from a suspension perspective to make a truck ride smoother, especially if you're going to be towing. Well, that's going to be a difficult question to answer, simply because a lot of people will change the shocks out on their truck and claim that their truck drives a certain way after doing so. Well, when you put a softer shock on your truck, you may feel like it's smoother, but the truck might be bouncier, and that could in some ways feel less comfortable. If you put a firmer shock, the truck might feel like it is a little rougher inside, but if it handles bumps smoother, then that could also be effective. That's where people's opinions really come into play when it comes to the types of shocks that you go with. A firmer shock is going to make the truck feel more planted, and oftentimes it's going to give you less rebound after a bump, which in some cases feels smoother. In some cases, when you have a soft shock on and you hit that same bump, the truck may feel like it's floating a little bit, and it may take a while to completely recover and settle down. And there's a big difference there. When I had my 2016 F450, I installed a product on the leaf springs called a Celastic rubber shackle, which replaced the factory shackles. You might want to try those. They do a pretty good job of taking the bumps and the jarringness out of the suspension, and it really will give you a smoother ride. You just want to be careful that you don't do anything overly aggressive with your truck. It's not really designed for off-roading once you install those. So that's all the time I have for this segment of BTBRV Rants. I pull my questions from the comments section, my Facebook, as well as email. If I didn't get to yours, I definitely apologize. I will try to get to them next time. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up. We will talk to you again very soon. And if you haven't checked out my main channel, Big Truck, Big RV, please do so.